Okay, so without more ado, I'll call upon Mike to make his unveiling speech. Thank you very much for coming, Mike, and for making it possible.
Thank you very much, Bob. And, I echo all of the things that Bob has said in the way of thanks to the myriads of people who have made today's event possible. Bob's just made me change what I was going to say. I wasn't going to say anything about the various places Percy lived in various times. He spent his last years here. But I'm actually going to start by reading out part of a note written by the librarian at the Bodleian Library, Falconer Madan, a few months after Percy Manning's death in 1917. He wrote, "On August the 15th, Puddifer's motor van went to 300 Banbury Road and brought about half a ton of books and portfolios, being the second and final instalment of the Manning bequest to the library." Manning's note tells us that if the first instalment was as big as the second, that's a ton of documents ferried to the library. When Percy died, he left all his materials on Oxfordshire to the university. They all came to the Bodleian. When you consider that 4 years later the family sold to the Ashmolean Museum over 800 objects which Percy had collected over his lifetime, you can see that the house in front of which we are now standing, which was also home to Percy's brother Arthur and Arthur's son Cecil, it must have been very full indeed, an Aladdin's cave of Oxoniana. But what did these collections consist of? Well, almost anything to do with the city and the county of Oxford. Percy had arrived in Oxford as an undergraduate in 1888 and spent the rest of his life in Oxford. Once he came here, he couldn't bear to go again. Strangely enough, his first house in Oxford, or first home in Oxford, was where the Western Library now stands and where his manuscript Bodleian collections now live, so they very much returned there. But his final home was here. And he spent the rest of his life here in Oxford, a little over 28 years, as a gentleman scholar with the leisure and resources to pursue his interests throughout all that period. And the kind of things we can find in the collections are, they range from Paleolithic flints, Bronze Age spearheads, to Roman swords and coins. There's medieval pottery and tiles. There are wine bottles and iron keys. There are spinning wheels and policemen's truncheons. He gave over 200 items to the Pitt Rivers Museum during his lifetime, as well as the 800 that went to the Ashmolean after his death. He had a library of several hundred books relating to the city and county, and his manuscript collections contain deeds, charters and estate papers, maps and surveys, typical of the antiquarian collections of his time. But he went far beyond that. He had a library, he was interested in landscape and archaeology and in buildings of all types, ecclesiastical and secular, stately and vernacular. His collection of topographical drawings of the county and buildings plans is numbered literally in the thousands. He was a voracious reader. He made notes from everything he read, sorted them by subject. He was an inveterate clipper out of newspaper items about life and custom. His interests in collecting embraced popular politics, agriculture and farming, especially the pre-enclosure world of open field custom, and rural industry. And here he went beyond collecting and documenting written sources, but with the aid of his trusted assistant Thomas Carter, he gathered oral testimony about the life, beliefs and customs of the ordinary people of the county. He researched social history and popular culture in the widest sense. He delved into sports and pastimes in depth, from the major county hunts and university cricket and tennis, to recreations such as boating, and some of the more brutal entertainment of the day, such as fighting with cudgels. He reached into the arcane, recording pastimes now lost to us, such as bumble puppy and funking. Ask me later. He had an especial interest in community seasonal festivals such as May Songs, Mummers Plays, and above all, Morris dancing. He was the true progenitor of the Morris revival, for it was his resurrection of the Headington Quarry team for a performance in March 1899 that led to their discovery by the folk music world a few months later. I think one single encounter shed some light on how his interest in diverse fields could come together. In 1901, he met one Joseph Goodlake of Stanton Harcourt. Goodlake told him about digging up a gold ring while ploughing the fields in the village. So here was something archaeological. He told him about the ill-fated attempt to take one of the Devil's Quoit standing stones at Stanton Harcourt to make a bridge, only to find that it kept shifting until it was put back where it came from. A typical piece of local folklore. And he wrote down Goodlake's description of the Stanton Harcourt Morris dances he had done in his youth. And it's thanks to these notes that we have the Icknield Way Morris men here today to dance those very same dances, and I'm very grateful to them for turning up. There isn't a community in the county that isn't reflected somewhere in his collections. I had a quick look for local material and encountered, among other things, a letter of 1863 about the formation of Summertown United Cricket Club, and a printed brochure of a programme of magic lantern entertainment in aid of the Summertown Church Restoration Fund in 1883. While from just down the road, in Staverton Road, the Ashmolean has a bronze-handled seal from Manning's collection. Percy's collections, although well used and studied over the last 100 years, have not really had their true value recognised and appreciated because they have been split among the various libraries and museums, because they've been largely anonymised in those institutions, and because Manning himself was a shy and modest man who didn't promote or publicise his contributions to Oxfordshire history and life. And I'm very pleased to say that on the centenary of his death, this has finally been remedied, and we now have better ways to appreciate the man and to study his collections, from detailed descriptions to interactive maps. And in the blue plaque, which is now installed in this his final home, we do have a lasting memorial to the man who collected Oxfordshire. And with that, I think it's my job to pull this down, and hope I don't pull the whole thing down with me. And to say, here's the centenary of Percy Manning, the man who collected Oxfordshire.